On a cold September night in 1994, the Baltic Sea, that vast, dark stretch of water between the Nordic countries, became the grave of 852 people. What was supposed to be a routine ferry ride turned into Europe's deadliest maritime disaster since World War II. But beyond the chilling facts lies a web of unanswered questions, political silence, and theories that refuse to sink. The MS Estonia was no ordinary ship. Built in 1980 in Germany, it had served multiple routes under different names before being purchased by Estonian and Swedish interests. At 157 meters long with 11 decks, restaurants, bars, saunas, and even a movie theater, it was a floating symbol of Estonia's newfound independence after the collapse of the Soviet Union. On the evening of September 27, nearly 1,000 people boarded the Estonia in the port of Tallinn. Their destination, Stockholm, Sweden. The journey across the Baltic was expected to take 14 hours. Among the passengers were tourists, business travelers, students, people from Estonia, Sweden, Finland, Norway, Russia, and Germany. The mood was light. People mingled at the bar, enjoyed dinner, danced, and looked forward to the next day's arrival. But just hours into the voyage, something began to go wrong. The Estonia departed behind schedule, around 7:15 p.m. As it moved into open waters, the sea grew restless. Winds reached up to 60 miles per hour. Waves surged over 20 feet high. The ferry rocked, but not alarmingly. After all, this was the Baltic, rough waters weren't unusual. The ship, though slightly overloaded on one side due to uneven cargo distribution, pressed on. Just after midnight, as many passengers were heading to their cabins or already asleep, loud metallic sounds echoed from the ship's bow. A few crew members investigated the car deck entrance but saw nothing out of the ordinary. Then, at 1:15 a.m., a thunderous crash shattered the night. The bow visor, a massive 50-ton metal door at the front of the ship, had broken off. Water rushed into the vehicle bay below. Within seconds, the Estonia began to list heavily to starboard. Panic spread like wildfire. A woman's voice came over the loudspeakers, alarm. But for many, it was already too late. The ship tilted at a dangerous angle. Hallways turned into waterfalls. Staircases became slippery death traps. Some passengers were still asleep. Others were trapped in their cabins, unable to reach the upper decks. The lucky, or simply the quick, rushed toward lifeboat stations, but the list of the ship made deploying the boats nearly impossible. Survivor accounts describe scenes of utter chaos. People screamed, pushed, and trampled each other. A young man named Magnus tried to help his parents and girlfriend reach safety, but the steep angle of the deck made movement impossible. They urged him to go on without them. He did, reluctantly, and survived. They didn't. By 1:30 a.m., the ferry was at a 60-degree tilt. The lights had gone out. People stumbled in total darkness, cold seawater rising around them. The air was filled with the sound of crashing waves, screaming passengers, and metal groaning under strain. Some passengers jumped into the freezing water, hoping to survive long enough for rescue. But with a water temperature of just 50 degrees Fahrenheit 10 degrees Celsius, hypothermia set in within minutes. And yet, amid all this, a proper SOS signal still hadn't reached authorities. When a distress call was finally sent, it was poorly formatted and failed to follow international emergency protocols. It wasn't until nearby vessels began hearing chaotic messages over the radio that they realized the Estonia was in real danger. By then, she was almost gone. At 1:50 a.m., the ferry rolled onto her side and slipped beneath the surface. Her final location, 41 kilometers from the Finnish island of Uto, in international waters, at a depth of 85 meters. Rescue ships arrived too late. Helicopters followed, but only 138 people were pulled from the sea. One later died at the hospital. Out of 989 souls aboard, 852 perished, most by drowning or hypothermia. Only 26 women survived. No children under 12 made it out alive. In the wake of the disaster, an investigation was launched by Estonia, Sweden, and Finland. The official conclusion came in 1997, the bow visor failed due to poor design and rough conditions. Water flooded the car deck, destabilizing the vessel, and causing her to capsize quickly. But not everyone was convinced. Why had the crew delayed sounding the alarm? Why wasn't the distress call sent earlier? Why were the lifeboats unusable? And then came the biggest question of all, was there more to this story than an engineering flaw? In 2020, a Swedish documentary reignited public outrage. Using underwater drones, filmmakers captured shocking footage of a large hole in the ship's starboard hull, a gash nearly 13 feet wide and 4 feet deep. It was too clean, too precise. Speculation exploded. Had the Estonia been struck by another ship? Was she carrying something secret? Rumors that had long circulated began to resurface. Some claimed the Estonia was being used to smuggle Russian military equipment to the West after the Soviet collapse. An MI6 officer reportedly confirmed the existence of such operations. Others pointed to a secret agreement signed in 1995 between Sweden, Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Poland, and Russia, declaring the Estonia's wreck a protected maritime grave and banning all future dives to investigate further. And then there was Captain Avu Pite, one of the ferry's 2 alternating captains. He wasn't on duty that night, but he was reportedly on board as a passenger. Initial reports listed him among the survivors. Witnesses say he was airlifted by helicopter and taken to safety. Yet, days later, authorities stated he had died in the sinking. No body was ever recovered. No explanation was ever offered. Had he seen something? Did he know something that couldn't be allowed to surface? Of course, not all of these theories hold up. In the late 1990s, a thorough Estonian police investigation ruled out foul play regarding Captain Pite. But the questions remain. The evidence, both confirmed and missing, continues to cast a long, cold shadow over the tragedy. Today, the MS Estonia lies silently beneath the Baltic Sea, its decks crumpled, its secrets sealed by pressure, depth, and bureaucracy. For the families of the victims, it is a tomb. For others, it is a mystery, a ghost ship that took with it not just lives, but the truth. And though the sea may be quiet, the voices of the lost still echo, in wreckage, in memory, and in the stories yet untold.